audience and a common fact base for which you can have, in which you could have something like the FDR, the Reagan, go into the country explaining things, even, God help us, the Ross Perot, have the charts, have a teachable moment. Do you think that kind of presidential leadership is possible in this environment?
Well, I hope so.
People are don't you, Jim, think people are hungry for that?
They are hungry for it, but also we are at fault. We make the presidency the toughest job in the world, almost an impossible job. And you as a historian know there was never an easy time for an American president. Thomas Jefferson didn't have it easy. Andrew Jackson didn't have it easy. But now we make it almost impossible, because if you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If people can just remember back to Harry Truman, they'll see a president who was widely vilified, a failed haberdasher, and yet he made some of the wisest foreign policy and domestic policy decisions in all of American history. And only in retrospect do we see his greatness. Look at the president's situation today. It would be common sense to pass a highway bill, an infrastructure bill. But because of Republican doctrine and not wanting to raise any taxes, a doctrine which thankfully Senator Corker recently broke with in favor of a 12-cent gasoline tax, but he's the only Republican I know of in the Senate who's willing to break with orthodoxy. So it used to be common sense for Congress to pass highway bills. We've really blown it for a long time now. We haven't had a real highway bill for 7 years. That's crippling for the country, and it's crippling for the presidency too, but it's not his fault.
Right. Immigration is very important right now. It's reaching a level of humanitarian crisis in California, Texas. What's the hope for congressional action in terms of addressing this with some dispatch? Senator?
Well, the Senate, we passed a bipartisan immigration bill, which basically said secure your borders first. Those people who have been here and came here illegally will pay their fines, get in the back of the line, and go through a process. There was no amnesty there whatsoever. And it's something that I think it was a good building block for us to work off of. We're just asking our friends on the House side, both the Republicans and our Democratic friends, to look at this. And let's bring this up. I mean, with what you see, the influx now of these young people coming from all over South America, something has to be done. We've got to secure these borders. We've got to make sure that we're able to do it in a systematic way that's fair, but it's also manageable. And right now it's not. And you can't do it without immigration reform. Thinking that you've got 11+ million people here that came here illegally, and you're going to round them all up and throw them out, we can't even stop the ones who are coming here just recently and get them turned around to go back. We're having a hard time there. And I think, Jim, that was the 2008 law that was passed, and that's what Henry and I are working on right now, seeing if we can eliminate that and repeal that piece of legislation and treat all of the non-contiguous countries the same as we treat Mexico and Canada, and get them turned around quick and get them back to their hometown or their home country within a 48-hour period.
Joe's exactly right that comprehensive immigration reform has passed the Senate, and that's something of a miracle. But today's House of Representatives won't even allow a vote on it, which is outrageous. They are so afraid of alienating their ultra-conservative base during primaries that they're not willing to consider it. And after the Eric Cantor defeat, they're even more paranoid. But here's an example in which you have a semi-functional Senate, but a completely dysfunctional House. And for them not to even allow a vote on it, if they were to allow a vote, it would pass in overwhelming fashion, and the issue would be more or less solved. But they won't even allow a vote because it's all internal Republican Party politics. They're worried about the Tea Party wing. And therefore, folks like Mario Rubio are having a hard time even ascending in their party, or a Jeb Bush.
I don't want to let you go without asking about Senator Manchin's Potomac hospitality and whether or not you have been out drinking with him on the Potomac River.
No.
But, Senator, tell us about, you have a houseboat.
I live on the Potomac. I just couldn't come to investing in real estate here in D.C. It was not in my DNA, my bones. I couldn't do it, John, no matter what deal. And I said, I just can't do it. So I told my wife I'm going to buy a boat, because then when things get a little bit crazier than what they are now, and whatever decisions I make, I can just float away, and no one will notice the difference. But the main thing is, it's really been a great thing for us to have in evenings, get a few of our senators together, maybe 4, 5, 6, or 8, even more at times, And I try to get balance of Democrats and Republicans and people from that you would think from one end of the spectrum to the other. One night we had Tom Harkin and Ted Cruz, a beautiful evening. And I know that Tom looked at me and probably Ted looked at me. And these are both my friends. And before I knew it, you couldn't have separated two from conversation.
That's great.
And we don't get that type of opportunity here. So we got to make every minute count.
Senator Manchin, Congressman Cooper, thank you.